So now we're on number 2, and the first thing I want to do is determine if we have a function or not. So I'm going to plot f of x equals x squared. Notice that this one tells us already that we're restricting the domain. Remember that whenever we have a root or a power, that's a possibility. Sometimes it's in the problem statement, sometimes we have to deal with it in the answer, sometimes both. Here's our original function. Again, the y equals x line, and then f of x is equal to x squared. The way that you put a restriction on our domain or range is to put it into brackets like you see there. So notice that instead of a quadratic, we have half a quadratic. I can pick out points at 0, 0, 1, 1, and 2, 4, and go ahead and plot those. So 0, 0, 1, 1, and 2, 4. And I'm going to draw my half parabola. Half a parabola because we've restricted the domain. Now we need to do our horizontal line test. And you're using your pen or pencil. I'm going to come up through here, and I don't see anywhere where I cross more than once, so I pass the horizontal line test, and that means that my inverse is a function. All right, so let's go ahead and find our inverse now. So I'm going to go through the same steps. Step 1 of changing f of x to be y. Step 2 of switching x and y. Okay, and then step 3 is to solve. And this is going to be a pretty easy one to solve. The opposite of squaring is square rooting, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides. The root and the power cancel, they're both 2, and I'm left with plus or minus square root of x is equal to y. Now, we've solved for our inverse, but we had a restriction on the domain, okay, on the x values. Remember, x is domain. So since we had a restriction to start with on our domain, we have to do the same thing on our opposite or inverse, but with the opposite. So we need to restrict our range. All right. So we need this function to always be positive. Right now, we say positive and negative. And so in order to restrict the range to be y greater than or equal to 0, I need that square root of x to always come out and be positive, not be taking the negative of my number. So I am going to get rid of the plus and minus. So step number 3 was this. Step number 4 is that I'm going to get rid of plus and minus by restricting my range. Sorry, that 4 goes over there with my restriction. And now I can write this in function notation. So f inverse is equal to square root of x. Again, we got rid of the positive and negative. It's just a plain old square root of x, so it's always going to be positive. All right, step 5 is to plot. So let's plot. I called that g of x, and you can see that it is a perfect mirror image. So I have those opposite points, and I can plot. Let's plot our points at 0, 0, 1, 1, and at 4, 2. And then I can draw my radical function. Kind of looks like a sideways half parabola.